Hello, hello, hello. Happy Friday. I am excited to be here. Today I have Dr. Alice Rizzi with me. She is a licensed psychologist in New York and a mindfulness coach worldwide. She creates courses and programs that help people experience more joy, peace, and freedom in their everyday lives. Alice believes that mindfulness is a superpower and is on a mission to educate as many people as possible about the benefits they can experience when they make it a daily practice. She believes that more mindful individuals will contribute to more peaceful and loving communities from which we can all benefit. Amen to that. Welcome, Alice. Thank you for being here
Hi,
today.
thank you for having me.
So, share a little bit about your story, how you got to this place. I'm sure you didn't, finish high school and go, I want to be a mindfulness coach, right? So tell us a little bit about your journey and your story to where you're at.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, when I finished high school, I didn't know about mindfulness yet, but I was already very much into psychology. And
Okay.
so I went into undergrad already with the idea that I'm going to become a psychologist. And it was through my undergrad training, I think it was one of my either positive psychology classes or something like that, where I first learned about mindfulness. And it really intrigued me. And at the time, I was very much like an anxious ball. And the way that I pictured mindfulness is like this zen, peaceful, like Buddha-like person on a mountain.
On the top of
And
a mountaintop for six
yeah,
days.
exactly. And
Chilling
I was like,
out.
that sounds nice. I want some of that. And I'll have what he's having.
Right.
And so I started learning more about it. And it wasn't that by any means. I know that now, but
Yeah.
it got my foot in the door. And what I have discovered is that it really does help me feel more calm, more at peace, less anxious. And I'm better able to use also the psychology skills that I learned because I am more mindful now.
Mm.
And so it was such like a powerful thing for me in my personal life. I started learning more about it. I chose my grad school based on the fact that they had a mindfulness research team. I wrote my dissertation on mindfulness, so I got like the evidence-based, like literal proof, like this
Right.
stuff works. I did it with clients. Every one of my clients at the end of our work said, the biggest difference was mindfulness for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Not enough people know about it. Too many people think that you have to be the Zen master on a mountain to use mindfulness or you have to meditate 3 hours a day. And so I'm here to bust those myths, tell like regular, everyday people, busy people, overwhelmed people, business people, entrepreneurs, whoever you are, you can benefit from mindfulness.
Right.
And
And you can
so,
do it. Not only can you benefit from it, but
yeah,
it's easy
absolutely.
enough to do. Yeah.
It's simple. It's really like once you understand it, you're like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And it's really just about allowing yourself to create just a teeny tiny space of time to do it. And
Yeah.
what it ends up doing for you is actually stretching time and making you feel more spacious, more free, more grateful, more happy. So yeah, that's how I
Nice.
came to do this mindfulness work.
Nice. What does your own mindfulness practice look like, and has it evolved over time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I've gone through periods where like I meditate daily to I don't meditate for weeks to I do it when I feel like it to I do it in response to something. Most days it's the daily, tiny daily mindfulness practices that are not necessarily meditation. However, I do my best to have a meditation practice as well. But for me, that doesn't look like 30 minutes or even an hour. Like what I found works best as a business professional is like 5 to 10 minutes because I can commit to that every day. Like I
Right.
think we all, if we're honest with ourselves, we can dedicate 10 minutes to meditate. We could probably dedicate 15 minutes. But so many of us busy ourselves with email and even social media and like, especially like in the online space we convince ourselves that media like doom scrolling is part of the business. I
Right.
know I
Right.
did that for
Yep.
so long.
Yep. I still do it at times. Yep.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
if you took even half the time, not even half, like a fraction of the time that you spend on social media meditating, like you could feel
Right.
at peace too.
Yeah, and for me, I actually, you talk about you've gone weeks without meditating, and then
Mhm.
I am on, I think today was day 103 or 104 of meditating. I've never in my
Amazing.
life done that, but Insight Timer let's have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
counter. So
I
now
love
I'm
that.
like, I can't let it go. My husband
Yeah.
and I were doing it together, and he missed one day, and it went back to zero, and I was like, I can't.
Mm.
But I've done the same thing. I have gone weeks and months without, and what I say to my clients, because I don't know if you hear this, but I hear this all the time. I can't meditate. My brain is too
Yep,
busy, right? And I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm on day 103 and my brain is still busy. And
Yeah.
meditation isn't about quieting the brain as much, because I always say if your brain is stopped, you're dead, right?
Yes,
So that is not
exactly.
the goal of
Yep.
meditation.
And it's not to clear your mind or yeah, stop the
Right,
thoughts or
right.
like do
It's
anything
it's
like that.
it's recognizing the thoughts and pushing them, going, okay, we're going to focus here.
Hmm.
And I think for me, I had this beautiful experience a few years ago where um, I was sitting in a doctor's office and I was having a follow-up mammogram because there was something
Hmm.
they found. And my sister had breast cancer. I think she's 7 years cancer-free now.
Mm.
And I went to the appointment not thinking that I had breast cancer, but
Hmm.
they move you to the mammogram and then they move you to the room where you get the ultrasound. And then I was sitting outside the room
Hmm.
where the nurse, where we were when my sister got diagnosed. I was
Mm.
sitting in the chair and I was planning my treatment plan. How am
Hmm.
I going
Hmm.
to fit radiation into my schedule? And I felt myself doing this and I
Yeah.
caught myself. And my mantra, and I share this with all of my clients, is right here, right now, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right here, right
Yeah.
now, I'm fine. Because in that moment, I was.
Absolutely.
Now, it could have changed, and grateful it did not when the nurse came to me. But to me, mindfulness is presence, right? It's
Hmm.
being in the present moment because we live so much in the what if, right? I was
Hmm.
creating as well. I guess I'd have to reschedule this client because I can only do mornings. I mean, I was down a whole path of how was
Yeah,
I
you're
going to,
solving problems that don't exist yet.
right? And you talked about busyness. I work with clients on their addiction to busyness because that keeps
Hmm.
us out of presence, right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine, what are some tips and tricks that you give your clients to help them stay in that present place?
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I love how you explained it because, like, that's very much my definition of mindfulness as well. It's the being present in this moment. And what I kind of add to that is it's with the quality or intention of being more aware, being more accepting, being kind, compassionate, curious, non-judgmental. So all of those things can help you be more mindful and present, but also when you are intentionally mindful and present, you naturally cultivate those qualities for yourself. And so engaging in anything that like is sensory, right, can help you become more present. So I always direct my clients to what can you see, what can you hear, what can you smell, what can you taste, what can you touch? Because your sense perception is only in the present moment. You
Right,
can't smell something from 5 years ago. You
right,
can remember what something smelled like, but you're not being present with it. If you're present right now, then you have access to your senses. So it works both ways. And then the other is a more reflective practice. You can ask yourself, what am I thinking? What's going through my mind right now? What emotions are coming up for me? What physical sensations am I aware of? And
mm,
similarly, how you said, like, it's not about clearing the mind, it's about just shifting it back to the present moment. That's what the being present lets you do. It's like, yeah, there are all these thoughts that might be on tomorrow or yesterday, but I'm choosing to be right here,
right
right now.
here,
And I'm
right.
doing that by connecting with my present surroundings, my senses, my thoughts and feelings in this moment.
Yeah, I love that. Do you work with both men and women?
So I have two businesses in my
Okay.
therapy practice, where I do virtual psychotherapy with adult professionals. I help them manage stress, anxiety, OCD. Yes, I work with both men, women, couples.
Okay.
In my mindfulness business, that's where I primarily create courses, offer group programs, and do coaching within those spaces. It's primarily geared towards women. So
Okay.
ambitious, impact-driven, heart-led women that tend to doubt themselves, tend to be perfectionistic, want to feel more confident and self-trusting. So that space is primarily women.
Okay. And I work mostly with women, although I have worked with men. So my next question, I was debating how to gear this next question.
Hmm.
So, um, what are some simple ways that busy women, because it sounds like both of us are working with really busy women,
Hmm.
can start integrating mindfulness into their daily practice without feeling overwhelmed, right? So often my clients are like, I don't have time for this, right? I'm like,
Yeah,
3 deep breaths. That's all I
exactly.
want you
That's
to
a
do is
great place to
3 deep breaths, right?
Yeah. For me, it's all about like the mindful moments because I know like that's when even like in grad school, mindfulness really clicked for me. So I
Mm,
was actually walking to class one day and I decided to like stop on this grassy hill. And I just watched other students walking by. I watched squirrels rummaging through the garbage. I noticed clouds floating in and out. And I closed my eyes and I took this deep breath. And it just felt like the entire world stopped around me. And my
mm,
shoulders dropped and I smiled. And there was this sense of like spaciousness. And the whole thing didn't take more than like 2, 3 minutes. And
right,
then I got up and walked right to class. And like, that's like, again, that's where it's clicked for me. Like, oh, this is what it's about. It's
right,
not about when I sit on the cushion and meditate. It's these mindful moments in our everyday lives.
right.
And so I know one of the practices that I've integrated into my day is like I get up and I go to my window and I just look out. I do this several times a day, but if you can only do it once, do it once. And
Right.
that's where I engage my senses. What can I see in my garden? What animals are around? I turn my attention to my breath. I notice how I'm breathing. I notice if I'm holding tension in my shoulders and I put them down. Maybe I do a light stretch. Doing that gives you that moment of pause to decide, okay, what do I want to do next? I could go back to answering emails or the social media or the project or prepare for my client or whatever, or I get to choose to do something else. You know, if
Mm,
I'm noticing that I'm hungry, I might get a snack. If I'm thirsty, I might drink some water. If I'm tired, I might plan to take a nap later. So it's those mindful moments is really like where you get to feel that freedom, that peace, that spaciousness to let yourself be who you are so that you can make the best choices for yourself, for your business, for your family, etc.
yeah, I love that. Often if I go for a walk, it's still a little chilly here in New England to be
Hmm.
walking just yet, but
Same
there
here.
are glimmers.
It's 30 degrees today and there's a freeze warning.
Well, it's actually 35 here and the sun is out, but it is freaking cold.
Yeah.
Um, but I will, catch myself like looking at the leaves,
Hmm.
looking at the grass, right? Looking
Yeah.
at the pavement, right? Paying attention to, and sometimes I'll put on a walking meditation that helps
Hmm.
me even center as I'm walking. But it's just paying attention to what's going on around you too.
Yeah. And it's shifting your attention. Like it teaches you to shift your attention where you want it to go rather than just like being mindlessly on autopilot and doing
Right.
whatever you were in the habit of before.
Right.
You're choosing to notice the leaves. You're choosing to notice the pavement. You're choosing to slow down your walking or your breathing.
Right. Because how often do you get somewhere and you're like, how did I even drive here?
Yeah.
What
Uh-huh.
happened? Right.
Exactly. And that can be helpful, right? Because you don't
Sure.
necessarily want to be present and aware with every minute of like a 5 hour drive or a
Right.
17-hour
Oh, I
flight.
just did a 5 hour drive. You really don't.
Yeah, so it's like that's a useful thing that our brain does for us.
Yep.
It puts us on that autopilot mode.
Yep.
But when you incorporate these mindful moments in your day, you have the choice to get off that autopilot.
Right. You talk about mindfulness contributing to more peaceful communities. What does that ripple
Yeah.
effect look like in action?
Absolutely, yeah. So if you remember, part of my definition of mindfulness is not just awareness, acceptance, but it's kindness, compassion, curiosity, and non-judgment. So when you are practicing being mindful, internally you might feel grateful. And when you are grateful, you show up for other people in a different way. If you are being present in this moment in a curious, kind, compassionate way, if you are approaching your own thoughts, your emotions in that non-judgmental, curious, interested way, how you show up with other people is going to be different. Mindful
Mhm.
communication is a big thing that I teach my clients, like being really present and mindful with the words that you are using, making sure that they are values based so that you don't say something that you regret, so that you remain in your own authority, like authentic to yourself when you are speaking and communicating with other people. So that's kind of where that ripple effect comes in. It's you learn to be mindful first, and then you show up in this mindful way when you're in community with everybody else. They internalize some of that. They might then start practicing some of that. They choose to be mindful because of that. And so, again, how they show up with everybody else around them changes. It's
Right.
sort of like if somebody gives you a compliment and then you're in a good mood, so then you give someone else a compliment and then they're in a good mood. And it's like a
Yeah.
positive domino effect.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's what mindfulness can do.
Yeah. How do you see mindfulness helping us navigate fear, uncertainty, emotional burnout, especially in today's world, right? Everyone's on
Yeah.
edge. I don't want to get into a political conversation, but
Hmm.
wherever you fall, right, there's
Yeah.
anxiousness, right? How can we still be mindful in that uncertainty and fear,
Yeah. So
what?
actually, I would say much the same way that you were mindful in that doctor's office, reminding yourself right now in this moment, there is no problem.
Mm,
And again, it's approaching it with that gentleness, that kindness of maybe there will be a problem in the future. And I trust myself to address that problem at that point in time. That's where that self-trust comes in that you learn from being present of, oh, I do have a choice. I get to respond in a values-based way. So you
mhm.
gain confidence in your own ability, your own skills, your own competence, so that you can stay present right now with however this moment is. Because we've all gone through challenges in the past, and we've gotten through 100% of them. Even if
Right,
we struggled, even if we made mistakes, you
right.
are here today, and that is evidence that you have overcome literally every single thing that you've been through in your life.
Yeah.
So it's reminding yourself of that. So in this moment, generally speaking, there are no problems. And I know that if I encounter a problem, I will approach it mindfully. I will do my best. I will approach it with curiosity, with non-judgment, with compassion, with kindness, and I will use the skills that I have to address it. So I think so much of the fear and panic is from people trying to become certain in
Mm.
situations where certainty doesn't
Well, we
exist.
don't like being uncomfortable, right? I often work with
Absolutely.
my clients on
Yeah.
leaning into the discomfort,
E-
right? Because the
Exactly.
busyness comes from the addiction to busyness is because we don't want to feel the emotion. But if we can
Yeah.
actually allow ourselves to feel the fear, the
Yes.
whatever, and then recognize, oh, nothing bad really happened. I got on the other side of it. But we
Or
are
if something bad happens, I had the skills to figure it out.
right. I was still, and I don't
Yeah.
even like the good, bad, right, wrong, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it just is, right? A
Exactly.
situation that happens is just a situation that happens, but we then put a judgment on it of this
Yeah.
shouldn't have happened. I shouldn't have
Yeah.
lost my job. This person shouldn't have died. And yes, we can feel those feelings, but some of my biggest life shifts and transitions were a result of something I'm air
Mhm.
quoting for those listening, bad
Yeah.
happening in my life, right?
I mean, it's
And
all about the story that we tell ourselves.
right, that's
And you can
all it
create a
is.
good story, again, in quotes, or you can create a bad story, also
Right.
in quotes.
Both are stories,
And
right?
it's just a perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like if you ask 100 people what an elephant looks like, they're going to
Right.
describe it differently
Right.
depending from their vantage point, right?
You said something about in this moment you don't have a problem. A couple of years ago, I was listening to some abundance manifestation
Hmm.
program. And the woman said, and I had to stop it and re-listen to it because she said, in this moment, you don't have debt because you can't
Yeah.
be in two places at once. You can't be
Hmm.
listening to me and have debt. And I was like,
Hmm.
mind blown, right? I was like, this is fascinating, right? But I was like, wow, she's right, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so there is it exists, but it can't exist in this moment because in this moment I was
Yes.
listening to her voice.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's the same thing, right? Like, so is there really any difference or distinction between mindfulness and presence, right? Because they really are one
Well,
and
I
the,
think to me, presence is part of my definition of
yeah,
mindfulness. So,
yeah.
mindfulness is the quality of being present. One definition that I've sort of not struggled with, that's too strong of a word, but something I've contemplated is a difference between mindfulness and consciousness. So I
Hmm.
think mindfulness helps us be more conscious human beings. But
Okay.
if I think about what that means, to be conscious to me is to be kind and compassionate and curious and present. So those
Right.
are two definitions that I think are very close.
Yeah.
But yeah, mindfulness is that like being present.
I love that. What's a misconception about mindfulness that you'd like to just be
Yeah, I
like,
mean, well,
enough?
the first one is that it's not the same as meditation.
Yeah.
Like you can
You could
meditate
be
in a
mindful
mindful
without
way.
meditating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And we've all had those moments. Like you said, like we're taking a walk outside and suddenly we notice, oh, the sun feels warm on my cheeks. Oh, my breathing has just slowed down. Like that's a spontaneous, mindful moment. But we
Yeah.
can also choose to bring mindfulness into everyday moments. I can do the dishes mindfully. I can notice, what does the soap smell like? How rough does a sponge feel? What temperature is the water? And I can choose based on my answers to then turn the hot water up, turn it off, put the plate down, pick up a cup, right? Like those are all mindful choices in that moment. I can eat in a mindful way. I can walk in a mindful way. I can speak to somebody in a mindful way. So we can become spontaneously mindful. We can also choose to intentionally integrate mindful moments, and we can practice mindfulness meditation. So all different ways of being mindful. There's not just one way of being mindful or practicing mindfulness. So that's the biggest one. Mindfulness meditation are not the same. The
Right.
other biggest one is for anybody who does want to practice mindfulness intentionally or even do mindfulness meditation. It doesn't have to take hours every day. It doesn't even have to take an hour every day. You can start with 3 deep breaths every day, or even just 3 intentional breaths every day. You can start with 30 seconds of mindfulness every day. And I always tell my clients that it's better to start with a short amount of time that you can commit to daily than a longer period of time once a week. So don't just say, oh, I'm going to go on a mindful walk every Saturday and that's the only time I'm going to be mindful. No, commit to taking one mindful breath every day. You'll
Right.
see more benefits that way.
Well, and when you want to do all of it, you set yourself up to fail, right? And
Mhm.
then you're not going to do any of it.
Exactly. So, really, the shortest amount of time that you can commit to on a regular basis, and then you can always increase it. The benefits you'll start feeling are from even like knowing you have this intention and from coming back to this intention every day. And that already helps you become more aware and more present. Now you're bringing intention into your everyday life. And again, when you are mindful, when you're present, when you're intentional, you get to create the kind of life that you actually want. You get to make the choices that are in line with who you want to be.
Nice. How does mindfulness support healing from past trauma or really deep emotional patterns?
So I think that's where a lot of the acceptance comes in, but it's all of those qualities, which is why I repeat
Yeah.
them so much. You become
Yeah.
more aware of those traumatic moments that have impacted you. You approach them with acceptance, like, yeah, that thing, it sucked and it already happened. I can't deny that it happened.
Right.
And then you look at it with curiosity. Well, what might I not have realized then? You look at it through compassion, like, wow, I really went through a lot then. I have struggled so much. You bring in kindness. Like, if a friend told me that this was happening to them, I would be so empathetic. I would want to help them, I would want to reduce their suffering. And so, because it happened to me, I get to do that for myself. So there is actually a lot of like inner child healing and looking at past wounds in a mindful way
Yeah.
because you're being aware, accepting, kind, compassionate, non-judgmental.
I love that. What's your go-to practice when maybe you're having an off day and just like, I got stuff I got to do and I just got to focus?
So, what's the mindfulness practice, or how do
Yeah.
I keep integrating mindfulness in it? Is that
Yeah.
the question? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I will, like, no matter how much work I have online, I do still make sure to get up and I'll do my window practice or I'll go outside because I also know I need to stretch my body. I need to maintain flexibility. Otherwise, like, my knees will hurt, my back will hurt, I'll get a headache, my
Right.
eyes will start twitching, right? So, those are also all cues for anybody who experiences those type of like somatic symptoms that maybe you can benefit from integrating more mindful moments. And it can look like just getting up and looking out the window, getting a fresh breath of air outside, just stretching away from your chair. So I always make sure to do that. I try to get up at least once an hour. I'm always making sure that I stay hydrated. So again, like it can be automatic, but sometimes I very intentionally will lift up my cup. I
There you
take a
go.
sip of water. It's sort of like this intentional pause. And immediately, as soon as I do that, whether it's take a sip of water or take a deep breath, I slow down. I'm
Mm,
signaling to my brain that I'm safe in this moment.
right.
Therefore, my heart rate can slow down, digestion can turn back on. It's like a nervous system reset.
Right.
And I do try again to maintain that mindfulness meditation practice. And I will say, like, especially if you're busy, right? Like, it's almost like if you're busy, you can't afford not to slow down. You have to slow
100%.
down because then you will also be that much more efficient with whatever the tasks are. You'll be that much more picky in a positive way with the tasks that you need to do. Sorry, discerning is probably a better way to put
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I will go and I will literally like I like to starfish on my rug and that's how I meditate. And like I'm just so comfortable like this with my arms spread out, my legs spread out, and I will put on my favorite guided meditation. Sometimes it's my own meditation, a lot of times it's from YouTube or from some other coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes I will just lay there in silence and again like just come back to myself. What are the thoughts I'm noticing right now? What are the sensations my body is experiencing right now? And they're not bad or wrong. It's just, this is how this moment is right now.
Right.
And you notice your mind is wandering, and then you bring it back. And you know you're thinking about tomorrow or yesterday, and then you bring it back. And that's literally the entirety of the practice. It gets to be that simple.
I love that. I often will bring my clients through a meditation of, like grounding them, but like feel your clothes on your body, right? Because
Yeah.
that's not something we do or pay attention to, right? And I had one client be like, wow, that was really interesting, right? That
Mm,
that's how detached we can be from pain, right? Like no judgment,
yeah,
but like we just throw
absolutely.
on clothes and just assume, don't think about the fact that, oh, I can feel this. I can feel the tag on my neck. I can,
Mm.
right? So
You know
it
what's
is.
so interesting? And I wonder, this could be almost like a neurodivergence thing, because
Mm,
as you're saying this, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I feel my clothes all the time. Like my bra strap is uncomfortable, my pants
listen.
are like itchy
Yep.
there, my sock seam is bothering
Yep.
me. And
Yep.
so that could be like a little bit of like a sensory sensitivity.
Sure.
And I mean, in general, I'm a highly sensitive individual. And so
Right.
that comes out in so many different areas of my
Yeah.
life. But to me, it's that like, oh, I will notice the clothes I'm wearing. And the mindful practice for me then becomes and shifting my attention where I want it to go. Like,
Mm,
yeah, that's how I feel right now. And okay, maybe I have a choice. I can change and put something more comfortable on,
right.
or I can choose to shift my attention to something else, to a different body part, to my thoughts, to my emotions, to something that I'm doing at work or outside or my dog, right? So
Yeah.
like the mindfulness gives you the ability to choose where you put that attention. And we get to notice like what is there and what's not there.
Right.
Right. That's the practice where a lot of my clients are like, oh, wow, you're right. Like my back doesn't hurt today. And that's actually different. Or, oh, I'm not as stressed out today as I was yesterday. Oh, my headache is gone. So
Right.
it's noticing what is there and also allowing yourself to notice what's not.
I love that. I love that. I always love to ask this question as we start to end. What is something you live by that you want to share with our listeners? I mean, I think we talked about a lot of
Mm.
stuff, but is there anything else that
Yeah. I mean, one of the practices I've integrated more recently has really been positive affirmations. Because,
Mm,
like, with anybody who's familiar with the Five Love Languages by Gary Chapman,
yeah.
we all have a way that we like to receive and give love. And for me, words of affirmation is that like top thing. And
Okay.
so you don't have to wait for other people to affirm you, praise you, reinforce you. You get to do that for yourself. So I've really gotten into the habit of telling myself I've done a good job, that I'm a wonderful and kind person as I am, that I deserve to just exist and have the same rights as everyone else, that I am abundant, that I get to be free, that I get to be happy and successful. Because those words really matter. And it doesn't matter who they come from. And in fact, your brain is actually going to be more receptive if it's coming from you. But
Right.
all of that to say is like, notice how you like to give and receive love and give
Mm,
yourself more of that
I
because
love
you're
that.
worthy and deserving and you are
Well,
enough.
and I love the fact that you shift the from an affirmation because our brain can tell us all day long how we're doing a shitty job.
Yes. Yeah. And especially like
So
the
I love that.
perfectionist where like nothing is ever good enough. The
Right.
affirmations, you get to shift your attention to actually some things are good enough. In
Yeah.
fact, I have more than enough. I deserve more than enough.
Yeah.
And I've done more than
Yeah.
enough. So I get to just pause.
I love that. I love that. So we're gonna put the link to your offer. You're offering our listeners the mindfulness toolkit. It's a mini
Mhm.
course. Do you want to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah. So I have 7 days worth of mindfulness exercises that you can practice both in meditation, but also in day-to-day practices. And every video is just 3 minutes long. I designed it specifically with busy, overwhelmed professionals in mind so that they can't tell me, I don't have time. I don't know how to do this.
Right.
I'm bad at this. No, like if you can dedicate even just 3 minutes a day to yourself, you will feel that much better. And so that's why I designed this free course.
I love that. I always say to my clients, if you can't find 5 minutes for you, we've got bigger problems, right? So
Yeah.
like we really have to look at the bigger picture.
There's a meditation quote you're probably familiar. Like if you can't like dedicate 5 minutes to it, then you need to do 15.
Right, right. Yes. So I always pull three cards, and today I pulled from the Gabby Bernstein
Hmm.
Super Attractor. I just
Oh, cool.
intuitively pull a card. I have, I don't know, 80 decks or so. So
Hmm.
these came up. So when you said affirmation, I was like, these feel more affirmational than
Yeah.
oracle. But I do have three cards in front of me. So I have left, I have center, and I have right. And I'm going to have
Okay.
Alice choose. But those of you listening, also just kind of tap in to see what message that you need to receive today.
I'm gonna go with your left.
My left. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. The universe powerfully, I can't even speak today, powerfully responds the instant I realign with love. And
Hmm.
that's kind of what you just mentioned about like the positive affirmations for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, give yourself
Ooh.
love and the
All right.
universe will
So
follow.
if you chose center, I had two cards here. Apparently, two cards fell out. So appreciation dissolves all blocks to the presence of my super attractor power.
Mm.
And I am kind and loving toward others while creating clear boundaries that protect my good feeling emotions.
Hmm.
And then if you chose right, I let the universe catch up with my dreams.
Ooh.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
very beautiful cards.
Yeah. I have so many decks that I don't even know where I got these or when the last time I even looked at them were. So
Yeah, I have a shelf for my like decks too.
yeah. I have a shelf and a cabinet and
Yeah.
they're overflowing. Alice, thank you so much for being here today. It's been so much fun having this conversation. For those of
Thanks
you,
again for having me. Yeah,
yeah,
same
no,
here.
thank you. For those of you joining on this journey with me towards a more enlightened and fulfilling life, thank you for being here. I really hope that today's episode has inspired you to take a minute and just connect with, look at just if you're driving, just look out your window and pay attention to something, focus on something. If you're at your desk, just stop what you're doing and just notice something around you.
Mhm.
Remember, transformation begins from within. Take a moment each day to connect with your higher self and trust that the universe is guiding you towards your highest good. If you found today's episode beneficial, please subscribe, leave a review, share this podcast with others that might be on their spiritual journey and can benefit from this message. You can stay connected in both mine and Alice's community. Our social media links will be in the show notes. Until next time, continue to shine your light and walk in peace and love. I am Francine Terrell, and this has been Effin' Fridays with Francine. Alice, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.